I've been a professional character concept artist for 8 years. And in that time, I had to ideate portraits quite often and pretty much very fast. And in today's video, I want to share two little tricks or tips that really help me do that faster or more efficiently. So we're going to get right into it. Number one is actually cheating the features of a face. So instead of already trying to draw the eyes or trying to draw the nose or the lips or whatever, I'm just using the shadow sockets that are most commonly recognized in faces. And a lot of times, what facial recognition also really picks up very well. And so the first one is basically the intersection between the nose bridge or the nasal bridge and the eye socket. So this is usually, almost always, where we have a darker value. And so what you'll see when I'm doing this, right? I'm not going to add any facial features. I'm just going to add the darker values that are typically always present in a face, depending on the light. And then underneath is going to be, of course, some shadow for the nose and the nostril itself, like this. And then we have the corners of the mouth and the underside of the lip. And so you can see, just by adding in this value, it's literally magic. Just by adding in this value, you already get the notion of a face. And the reason I really like this, of course, now I'm doing it based with a reference. The reference in this case doesn't really matter. It's just because we have this template ready and it's easy to use. But the thing is, like, when I ideate a face, so let's get rid of this, it gives me some freedom to not really concern like what kind of face that I'm going to use or anything. It kind of gives me a little bit of freedom in like what sort of features might I have. So it's almost like a sketching thing. And like, will I put this shadow here and then maybe put this right here? And so this shadow shape or these shadow shapes are going to give me a different type of face. And especially if I combine that with another facial structure or like a portrait structure or head structure or hair, like it's really going to help me just see if I can do something more creative or just create a different face. Because sometimes we fall into the trap of same face syndrome, right? Where we always use the same structure, like the Loomis head, and because of that, we're sort of constrained to these specific features, and we end up drawing the same features over and over, where we suddenly end up with just sort of anime version of the same face, and we're just changing hairstyles, right? And often, especially as character concept artists, we don't want that. We want to have a lot of diversity in the way that we portray faces. And so this trick really helped me because I can also, let's say, we're taking a little bit more of a puffy face, right? So let me quickly sketch that, right? So bear with me. I'm just going to make this a little bit more chubbier. Sorry, Brad. I'm not trying to make you look bad at all, but right? We need you right now to help us, okay? So again, I can sort of make this shape, which is like a triangular shape, a little bit more wider apart. I can add the shadow here and maybe like I can make that nostril like this, right? So I'm only using these shadow shapes, and then I'm using the corners of the mouth and a little bit of the underside of the lip, and I suddenly get a completely different face. And to some degree, I can also do it for some emotion, as in, like, if I want this person to be smiling, I could do it like this and put the shadows a little bit more here, right? And give it a little bit of this quirk. And then I would connect those dots by, doing the center of the line or the center of the lips, and I already get an emotion. I often do this as well with like a more smiling mouth. Like if I want to show teeth, like I will literally just only show like the shadow shapes of what we're seeing, not necessarily the teeth themselves. And so by doing that, right, as you can see right here, I'm already giving you a suggestion that this character is smiling. and I'm not even drawing any facial features. And so this is the thing I really like about these particular more shadow areas, is that we can really already start ideating in a very simplistic way. And it's something that has really helped me as a professional character concept artist, because a lot of the times we needed to come up with new faces and we needed to make, very a wide variety of characters next to each other that are all needed to portray certain personalities and all of that. But it's not like you envision these personalities just like that. Sometimes you have character sheets that you can base it off of, but even then, you have to come up with something new and fresh and interesting. And a lot of times I didn't want to start with the head construction and then some type of nose and then some. I often really did it with like these shadow parts and just trying to find emotions or certain like proportions that I can already ideate just using this simple principle. So that's number one. I absolutely love that. Now, before you do anything else, make sure that you click the link in the description and get our free ebook. This book is absolutely fantastic. Some of you won't even understand why it's free. We didn't need to make it for free, but we wanted to make it for free for several reasons. But one of the main reasons we wanted to make it for free is, one, it's accessible, and it just gets everyone that uses the book and reads the book gets an insight into actually how we teach, our unique teaching philosophy at Artwod. It gives you an insight into primarily what you'll be learning in our Artwod Beginner Road and applying, and it will give you these aha moments into how we at Artwod make you intuitive at perspective and how we really help you better to draw from imagination in a very approachable manner. So you'll get these aha moments of why we teach this philosophy, especially our staple unique approach to form manipulation that you won't learn anywhere else, on how to really look at form, how to be able to manipulate form that then turns into actual believable things that you can draw from imagination. We've supplemented some of our YouTube videos where you can go watch how we use these methods and principles and then create cool things. You'll get a really good insight into our beginner road and how to understand better what it takes to draw from imagination. And that, I think, we've done such a good job with this book. And you can get it for free, all right? Like I said, we don't need to make money from this book. I naturally believe that all the value you get from this book, you're going to want to practice that, and that will lead you to Artwod anyway. We sort of want to unveil some of the secrets we have at Artwod on how to better get people into learning to draw from imagination. That's what this book is for. That will naturally kind of give you a hunger to do more, as it should, because drawing is awesome, especially when you can do it from imagination. Click the link in the description, get this book. It's truly awesome, and it's free. And then number two is actually also extremely simple. It's just emphasizing a certain plane of the head. And the reason I do that, like one or two planes, is to give you a better idea of the orientation of the head. Because often when we need to portray characters in scenes, or we need to make an illustration, or we just want to show characters from a certain angle, or make it easier for the modelers to understand the portrait, it's easy to give them like these sort of hints of what the orientation of the portrait is. And so I do this a lot, and I do really recommend that you also do this in your sketching, because I find that it was very beneficial as well for my painting. So I don't only do it in painting, I do it in sketching as well. That's why I pulled up this sort of example right here. So I emphasize a couple of planes actually here. I really like to do the nose a lot, especially when I know that you can see underneath it, but also by doing it in this angle, I sort of suggest that we're looking up at the character. Of course, the guidelines, the perspective guidelines are also helping, but it also, for me, gives it an easier time to give you the illusion that we're looking up at this character. And I even emphasize it for like the mustache, right? I give it this very like designed plane so that you understand we're looking underneath of this portrait. And I even block it out for like the side of the beard. Now, this is not necessarily for the orientation of the head. This is more to give you an idea about the volume of the beard and just a bit of the design that I want. So when I later would go to paint it, I'm probably going to have the volume run over like this, and then underneath like this. So when I go to paint it, it's easier for me as well. But I do really like to use like these little things that help me just better understand for myself what the volume and the orientation of the portrait is. and also for people that I need to communicate it to, whether it's you, the audience, or people in my team when I used to work with 3D modelers. And so I do this as well with painting. As you can see, I love to do it on the nose, by the way. But you can see, like, right here, I emphasize a plane, I emphasize a plane right here, and then I also like to emphasize the plane of the cheek. This is a bit more design, but it also helps me just it gives me the freedom to have sort of a certainty on the volume, the construction, because that's what I love. And then I have the freedom to do it a bit more randomly in the halftones. So I don't necessarily have to show all of the construction because I'm already emphasizing it with certain planes. And I'll do this a lot in my work actually. So same here. I won't necessarily always do it for shadow parts. I will also do it for the light where I will have these like more well-defined and I'll try to design them a little bit nicely as well, but I'll have like these well-defined shapes. And often I will do it based on the orientation of the head. So in this case, we're looking down at this character. So I will emphasize the planes pointing up. Therefore, they will be the planes in the light, and I won't overemphasize any planes in the shadows, and we'll just do it more with halftones. And it kind of gives you a better sort of idea, again, of just the orientation and the three-dimensionality of the character and the portrait. And I do this like subtly, but I know my friend Rembert Montaldt, who many of you know, like amazing sketch artist, amazing storyboard artist, he really emphasizes this because he needs to communicate a lot with animators and modelers. So the orientation of the face becomes really important, not only the face, the figure as well. And so he uses very much a more blocky style in his portraits to communicate that volume more clearly. And I really like to do this as well, but just in a more subtle way and only pick like a handful of planes to communicate that in my art and my designs. So those are the two tips that I would highly recommend that you also try and just play with, because it made me more creative with the shadow shades, but it also made me more communicative towards a team, or it just made me a better designer when I wanted to draw portraits in different angles. So I hope this helps. I hope this is useful for you. As always, happy drawing, enjoy drawing portraits, and I'll see you in the next one.